everybody. We're so excited that you are spending your hour with us today. Welcome to Success Series. My name is Kimberly Broussard,
I'm Nathan Barnaba.
and today we're going to discuss the concepts of change. Look, you guys, change is an unavoidable constant in our work lives. Sometimes it's within our control, but oftentimes it's not. Our jobs or roles change, and sometimes it's not always for the better. Our organizations sometimes go have reorgs and revamp their strategies, and it's up to us to adjust. But we got you. Today, we're going to talk about some ways to adapt to change and even to take advantage of it. Now, it's going to involve some commitment, time, and effort and identifying emotions. So, we want to hear from you on this topic. So, all your ideas and your strategies for today, I'm going to show you how to share. You're going to use that chat feature. So, what you guys just typed in, that's how you're going to communicate with us. Just make sure that in the two part, you put all panelists and attendees. That way, everyone can see what you're sharing. So, we have a great topic for you guys. We're going to talk about the strategies, some stages of change. We're going to talk about the challenges that you face because there are challenges with each of these stages. And
Mhm.
we're going to talk about some tools that'll help you overcome these challenges. So, Nathan, when I think about change, even saying the word makes my stomach turn. Changes bring about so many emotions. You know, I start to feel anxious even when I hear that something's about to change. What emotions do you feel during change?
I can definitely relate. I think it's a lot of anxiety, fear of the unknown. I'm very stuck in my ways. So going back to that personality type as an S, when I hear change, it's like, no, not today. Because it's just it's so horrible when we think about it. That connotation behind it.
Mm-hmm. And we want to hear from you guys in chat. What emotions do you guys feel during change? Ooh, anxiety.
Ooh, yeah,
Yes, that's me.
panic. Oh,
Panic, frustration, and dread. Yes. Oh, Tina, that's a good one as well. Overwhelm.
it can be overwhelming.
I think I
Yes.
feel that it can be overwhelming at times. Ooh, impatience. What's next? Carl, I'm with you on the fear of unknown, and I think that's why I don't like change.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. Skepticism, apprehension. Oh, well, look at Shannon.
Ooh,
Shannon said, but
good.
opportunity. That's, hey, I like it.
Good point.
Ambiguity. Yes. So learning to cope with change will lower your risk of those unwanted feelings. When you're able to accept change, your relationships are going to flourish. You start to even feel healthier. So you might also struggle with setting and meeting the goals that you have for yourselves. But we're going to talk about the stages that we go through when dealing with change, and we're going to help you with those strategies. Nathan, did you know that there were stages of change?
I did not. It wasn't until we started researching this topic and I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. Like the stages actually make sense when you think about it.
Mhm. And when I started reading on these stages, it started to make sense for me as well. I'm like, you know what? I do that. I do have those feelings and I do this in every stage. Now we're going to share with you guys. So what you're looking at now is it's called the trans-theoretical model. It was introduced back in late 1970s by two researchers, is Prochaska and De Clemente. So as I go through each of these stages, I want everyone to identify your easiest and your most challenging stage. Now, the first stage is pre-contemplation. And so during pre-contemplation, this is when, your supervisor comes in and says, we have a policy changes. One of our policies are changing. Immediately, you start feeling anxious. You start, going through your mind and pointing out all the negative things that's going to be wrong with this change. You're like, nope, I don't want to do it. What's wrong with the way we did it before? We've always done it this way. Why are we changing? During that pre-contemplation, you're solely focused on all the negatives with this particular change.
Mhm.
You're not even focused on any of the advantages of changing. All right. And it's important for us to remember that during this stage, this is where, if you don't like that change, this is where you start to voice it. And when you're voicing it, it could have a negative impact on your team. You might influence their buy-in for that change as well. So it's important during this pre-contemplation stage that you do a little bit of self-assessment. Like, why am I feeling this way about the change?
Mhm.
What exactly is it about the change that I don't like? Because you might find that, hey, the change has nothing to do with the actual policy itself. It might be, something else with the change that I don't like. And that has not necessarily something to do with that particular change. Now, the second is your contemplation. That's the second stage. And this is where you're like, you know what? Maybe it's not so bad. You start to get more information. Your supervisor's telling you a little bit more about that policy change, why it's happening. And then you start to identify some of the advantages. So now you're like, okay, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I can do this. This policy change, it's great. I think I'm on board. And then your next stage is your preparation stage. And in your preparation stage, this is where you're like, all right, I think I'm ready to do this change, and you start preparing for it. Like you might do a job aid, or you might try to identify how, this policy, or where you're going to have to in your daily duties, how this policy is going to affect those daily duties and what you're going to need to do to change. So in this preparation phase, this is where you're going to gather all your information, make sure you have everything done, gather the tools that'll make you successful. And then the last stage is your action stage. And your action stage, this is where you're going to toss that old way out the door, and you're going to move on and do the new way. This is where you're like, all right, you're putting all that work that you did in the other three phases is where you put it into action. So, Nathan, what stage do you find is the easiest and the most challenging?
I think the most challenging would be pre-contemplation, being
Mm,
stuck in my ways, being stubborn, not wanting to make that change. I could definitely see that being challenging to get over it. And I think the one that I would draw myself to would be action, because I did all the work. It's just applying my research and I'm on board. I think action would be pretty good for me. What about you?
Well, after looking at it and analyzing it a little bit, I realized that my easiest is preparation,
Mhm.
you know, getting everything together, and you know, when I think about it, I think about a diet. All right, I know I need to make a diet. I know I need to go on a diet. And so I start, okay, this is what I need to do. I start to gather all of my groceries and stuff, and all my healthy stuff, put it in the fridge, and then I go to Chick-fil-A. I think action is my hardest. It's the hardest for me, is to actually take that step. So I'm a little bit opposite. So as for you guys, I want you to type in chat and tell me, what stage do you find the easiest and the most difficult? See, Monica said same, pre-contemplation, the unknown. I'm fine as long as I'm informed with the why and I create my own plan for change and get it done.
Ooh, I like that.
Ruth said that pre-contemplation is hardest for her as well. First hearing those about those changes.
Mhm.
Sarah said that her easiest is preparation.
Ooh,
And so it's the same for Rhonda. Rhonda, you're with me on the action. Mhm. Most challenging is contemplation. And Stacy, you made a good point. You know that contemplation is one of the stages where people stay the longest in because you're trying to convince yourself to make that change. So it is the hardest. See, we have
Yeah,
a lot of pre-contemplation being the hardest. Oh, we have one action.
action. Oh,
That's me.
I can relate, Tawana. I can relate.
Most difficult would be pre-contemplation, the fear of the unknown.
That gets me to. I can relate to that one.
And Sonia said, hey, the easiest is the action. We've gotten past everything else.
Exactly. You have your plan. You're ready. I see a lot of pre-contemplations. So, knowing these stages now are not only beneficial to us to know the process, but it can help us as a tool. It can help us identify the challenges and the tools to help us progress through each stage. So what I'm mostly excited about with this webinar is that as I go through each stage, I'm gonna talk about some challenges and tools, but I would love for you guys to share because, this is a transfer of information and Kim and I would love your feedback to apply. So for pre-contemplation, I wanna ask, what are some of the challenges you would face in this stage? Two of the top two are fear and stubbornness. And I can definitely relate to stubbornness because I'm stuck in my ways, like I said, and I will not try to I will not try to go with that fear just because I'm used to the process. Think about it. How many of us said, I've always done it this way? I know I'm not the only one. And if you're in this stage, you may feel like you're resigned to your current state. You may want to just start asking yourself some questions. Some tools to help you combat that is to ask the 5 whys. So, how the 5 whys work. For example, let's say you want to get fit. Why do you want to get fit? To feel healthy. Why do you want to feel healthy? By the time you get to your 5th question, your answer is going to be so precise that you're going to know exactly how you have those feelings and how to address those feelings. And also, let's say there's a restructure at your job. You have to ask yourself, what are the consequences if you don't accept the change? What is it? And personally as well, what are the consequences if you don't make that resolution and acknowledge that change that you want to do, the healthy habits? Where do you see yourself 6 months from now? Someone that I know told me that, you are your own expert. So asking yourself the 5 whys and questioning yourself, you'll know how to address those feelings. And I see some great comments. I don't have a feel. Okay.
What I love about this tool with the 5 whys is I call it pre-contemplation the soul searching stage. This is where you have to dig really deep and try to identify why you don't like this change. And I find that the 5 why method can get you to that root cause. When you ask yourself all of these questions, you might find out that, hey, it didn't necessarily have to do anything with the change. I love that Tara said, I don't necessarily have a fear of change, but I'm stubborn about getting going.
Same, Tara. I can relate. It's just that getting the ball rolling. It's like it's hard for me. Ronald, I think the challenge for me has a lot to do with the people in my life. My views and thoughts have changed so much. Yeah, Ronald, that is true. You evolve if you think about it. You've been through multiple changes. So that is a great point.
I like that Monica said one of the challenges is that it's beyond her control.
Ooh, yes.
I have to agree with you, Monica. It's that lack of control that has me, anxious about change.
I like what Rachel said as well. Change can be for the better. That's something that I'm working on, Rachel. I need to make up my mind and tell myself that it is for the better. Change can sometimes be good. So as we get into the next stage of contemplation, I want to ask again, what are some of the challenges with this stage that you guys might have? Two top challenges are attitude and conflicted emotions. This is whenever you want to make that change, but you don't have the motivation to do so, or you're in a process where you realize that the change can actually be good, but you don't know where to start as well. So some things to help you with this is just to have a pros and cons list and identify your barriers. One thing that I've learned when implementing change is pros and cons lists work wonders. Because when we hear change, we don't always think of the positives, we go straight to the negatives. So when you weigh out the pros and cons, you'll actually see that whether it's very few, you'll actually see that there's some benefits with the change. And it can definitely help you in the long run. Go with that change. So those who are in this stage, you may be thinking about taking the action, you aren't ready, you don't know how to get started, but going back to doing your own research and being your own expert about your own feelings, you can work through this. Identify what's holding you back, identify those thoughts and address those emotions. There's a reason why you're feeling the way you are.
Love what Ronald said. I just needed to explain to me well enough to feel comfortable with. Don't just throw a
Yeah,
change
I'm,
at me.
I'm with Ronald.
hmm I find, Ronald, that I need the why. I need the why behind it to get my buy-in.
Mhm,
And I need to know how it's going to benefit us as a team.
mhm. I definitely agree. Well, so you brought up a good point. I want to ask, what are some of the things that you guys need to assist with getting your buy-in with change? What is it? I know a lot of you are saying the why. What makes you on board for change? For me, it is the why as well. I need to know the reasoning behind it. Will it improve a process? How will it affect me?
As, mm, yeah, how will it affect me directly?
Yes,
Explaining it to me in detail.
nice. Okay, I see a lot of the whys, and I could definitely see that.
hmm
Well, yes,
I also love that tool that you talked about for that pros and cons list. I'm
mhm,
a pros and cons list queen. I will do the pros and cons very often, and especially when it's a great change, you'll see that you have more pros than cons.
definitely. It has helped me tremendously. Like I said, when we think about change, it's that fear of the unknown. Maybe we should embrace it and see what can help us and what can hurt us.
Mhm.
If it's an organizational change, try to think about the team as a whole. How will this process improve your team? How will your New Year's Eve resolutions help you? Pros and cons of giving up sugar for New Year's Eve or something like that. What is it? The pros and cons will definitely help you.
I love what Ronald said. He said, I've learned to just listen more instead of putting up a wall. That wall makes it horrible to change or move forward.
Yes.
Mm.
And John had a good question, asking if it's needed. That is a good point too. Is the change needed? So for the next stage, preparation and determination. I like to talk about this, and just because I'm curious to know as well. Two of the challenges are procrastination and being afraid to ask for help. But what are some of the challenges that you guys have with this stage? I, for one, can say that I can definitely relate to the procrastination because I made up my mind, but I don't know where to start and I don't know exactly what to do. So I just sit there in that phase for a while. So, some things to think about are if you're scared to start, ask for help. If you're afraid to ask for help, ask someone. Someone has been through the same issue as you, someone has been through a change as well. If you know somebody who's calm and collect, that could be your go to person. Just find you someone on your team because if you're, especially if you're at work and you're dealing with change, you're going through it as a team. Why not ask for help? Why not ask someone who's dealing with it perfectly, how are you coping? We can use these people as resources. And also write down your goals. If you want to learn a new skill, how? What do you want to do? How do you want to make that change? And start small with your goals. Don't go too big. You know, for a lot of us have New Year's Eve resolutions and New Year resolutions, and we want to lose weight. Don't say you want to lose 30 pounds in 2 months. Try small. Just set a goal like you want to go for a walk for 30 days out the month or something like that. Small goals can definitely help keep you motivated and help you move forward. And going back to you being your own boss, prepare an action plan. Go forward with your own action plan to how you want to achieve those goals and reach those goals to make that change.
What I love about the tools is that you said in regards to when you write down your goals to make them small, because sometimes it could be overwhelming when the goal is so large. And to me, if my goal is huge, that increases my procrastination because I'm like, oh, I don't. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? A million things go on in my head. So if you start out and make those goals small, yes, Mariah said the small wins have a great impact.
Yes, I definitely agree with Mariah because we underestimate the research too. So I want us to be mindful of that. Don't start researching something and it's so past the process. Let's take our time and find out exactly what we need to do and want to do to accomplish. Don't rush that. That's the most important thing. Don't rush this stage. And also, for just another personal example, let's say you want, going back to the weight loss goal, follow people who are actually doing what you're doing. Follow influencers, follow things that make you feel good about health. Use social media in a positive light. That can actually help as well. Would anybody else like to share some tools that they go to or anything?
I saw you got to change your mindset from try to train for your
Love
goal.
that. I love that.
I love that hope.
YouTube. Yeah, YouTube is an excellent resource.
You've got to make a conscious choice every day to shed the old, whatever the old means for you. Oh, that's another good one,
That's
Ronald.
deep. I like that. Nice. A to-do list. A
Mhm.
to-do list can definitely help you. And check off that list.
That's right, Myra. Teamworks make the dream work. You surround yourself with like-minded people. Ooh, get out of the mindset of saying I can't. Sometimes I feel we're our own worst enemy.
Yes.
We have that negative self-talk will creep up on you in a minute. So changing your mindset.
And if you struggle with changing your mindset and getting motivated, come up with a mantra or any type of affirmation. Just those things work. Maybe whenever you're feeling down, say, I can do this. Don't don't be stuck in the I can't because then you won't make the change. I also
Ooh,
like the schedule check-ins in your calendar.
yes.
Yes, that'll keep you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So for the final stage of action, some challenges for this one may be, you not knowing where to begin or what to do, or others or yourself not adapting to the change. So if you're currently taking action towards changing your behavior or learning a new skill or anything for progress, maybe set rewards. Reward yourself for those small steps that you take. Reinforcement and support are extremely important because they can help you maintain the positive steps toward that change. Also, take some time to review your motivations. You may have to adjust your goal. Let's say you learn that skill in enough time, change it. You can also always adjust your goal to fit you, whatever it is. Just take some time to analyze it. I love the calendar idea because that'll hold you accountable and you can also make the changes that are needed. And seek support. Another thing, whenever you're a part of a team and you're going through change, everybody is going through that change with you. You can find a buddy, an accountability buddy, someone that you can talk to and talk through your reservations. Maybe you had a good time. Maybe you guys can be each other's sounding board to help you adjust for that change. what worked for them may work for you, and maybe not, but you can have that person to lean on, and they can lean on you, and you could guide them through enough change. I love what Bradley said about support systems are key. They definitely are, especially when it comes to things like change. So does anybody have any tools that they would like to share? And also share your challenges. I would love to know that as well.
Make sure you have buy-in regarding the changes and directions you're going. I
Yes,
love that. John said the left Twix bar is a great reward.
exactly.
what what I love about, in regards to action and the reward successes is you're rewarding your successes is your motivation.
Mhm.
Now, if you're like me and your goal is to lose weight and you lose that 1 pound, I'm like, yes, I'm going to reward myself with a cheat day, and then you wind up gaining 2 pounds and you're back to where you started. It moves me back to that pre-contemplation stage. So reward your successes, in a positive way.
Yeah, and Kim, another a thing that I do whenever I make a change or any type of successful change is I have a favorites thing. So let's say I make progress in my goal. I'll do a favorite. I'll watch my favorite movie, have my favorite dessert, something small to keep me on track.
I love that. Tiara said that she puts on Whitney Houston and have a 30-second dance party for her reward. All right. I started automatically playing her in my head.
I
My
can
biggest
relate, Melissa. Sometimes getting that person on board, it really can be tough. It can.
Mhm. And I think, with that person that says, but we've always done it this way, we can try and provide them with maybe a little bit more information, like the benefits, how it's going to not only benefit them, how it's going to benefit the organization,
Mhm,
how it's going to make their job easier, providing them with the WIFMs, the what's in it for me.
mhm. And Corey
Ooh,
said, how about reward yourself in a way that aligns with your goals? Or reward yourself in a way that is not counterproductive towards your goals. I like that. That's
thank
something
you,
to keep in
Corey.
mind when you're rewarding yourself.
Hmm.
Something that aligns. So I want to know, since change always has this negative connotation, and since we're towards the end of the stages, can you guys think of some of the benefits of change? What are some benefits? I'll go first. I think change can bring a lot of personal growth if
Hmm.
we adapt to it. Eventually, we can adapt to it. Personal growth, definitely. Success.
Flexibility,
Ooh, yes.
a new approach, efficiency, opportunities, a new
Mhm.
life. Identify your strengths, team bonding may cause you to work smarter, not harder. Ooh,
Powerful.
empowerment.
It can definitely
Yes.
open doors for you.
Create a new circle of people in your life and just broaden your understanding. Yes, Ronald.
New approach to getting things done.
Hmm. And that's what I love about going through all of these stages. Because if you think about it, we've all dealt with change. And some of the changes that we experienced, we've come out a better person. I mean, think about how we went from um, going to pay phones now to a cell phone. Think about if we didn't change, we're riding around now looking for a payphone. Well, you're not going to find one because the world has changed. So
Mhm.
we're constantly changing. Think about, before I worked for the state, I was in the banking industry. So think about when we went from writing checks, and that just goes to show you how old I am, but writing checks to the debit card. When I was in banking and they were like, we're going to introduce these debit cards, I was like, oh no, people are not going to go for that. Now I can't even live without my debit card. So we've all experienced change. We've been through change and we've come out better because of it. So change is not always negative. Ronald said he does miss the pager. I don't, Ronald. I don't.
Right. I definitely agree.
Mhm.
See, exactly. You can't live without the cell phone now. Maybe, back then we're probably like, I don't want to get rid of my beeper. I had a beeper as a kid. So, it's like it changed now. It's like we can't live without our phones. Sometimes
Mhm.
go through that change.
Oh, Ronald said he also loves starting my car before getting in. Yes, yes. So we've all experienced some type of change. Does anyone have a story how they were afraid of change, but it turned out to be a positive experience?
Mm.
Nathan, do you have a story?
I can say that, when the pandemic first started and going through all those changes at once, I learned a lot. And so I'm happy that we actually talking about this topic because, not working, not being around peers, not being around people that, you're used to being around work, it actually affected me. So I would do a lot of processing my emotions and feelings of change, like eating and things like that. So it got to the point where I had gained like a lot of weight due to that. So what I realized and what I assessed was I needed to make changes. And I did a pros and cons list. I did my research. I followed influencers and I actually started making healthier choices. And I can say that by making those changes, I've actually lost the COVID-19 and I'm making progress. So it just goes to show you that, whenever you embrace change and find out how you can adapt to it best, it does work.
Mm. I'm looking at Marisha. She said that when COVID hit,
Mm,
wait, I'm trying to find. Changes can be very good. When COVID-19 happened and everything shut down, I know many of us struggled, but
mm.
as the months have gone, I've appreciated some of the changes. And a bonus, the lockdown has increased time spent with family.
Oh
I
yeah.
love that, Marisha. You know, one of my stories where change has been positive is also a COVID-19 story. As Julie said, we've been through a lot of change. You know, it'll almost be a year now. And so when we first went home in March, we, got together and started brainstorming on how we can fulfill our mission of providing training to state employees.
Mhm.
And so after brainstorming, we decided that we were going to put our courses using a virtual platform, Zoom. And so I remember thinking, in that pre-contemplation, I was like, what if the internet goes out? What if, you know, what if I don't know how to use this new computer system? I don't know how to use Zoom. I've only used it once. And so a million things started going in my head. And once we, did all the preparation on how we're going to do it, I saw what the plan was. We created all of the courses, shade the time frame, and we put that action, we put it into action. We've been receiving such positive feedback, and it turned out beneficial not only for us fulfilling our mission, but it was also beneficial for the employees not having to wait to take their classes, not having to drive to the location. There were so many benefits for them. Oh, Penny said, my kid's leaving home for college before I dreaded it. Not now. It's fabulous.
A lot of these stories, I want to say, I see a lot of people are actually embracing the good and change. That's really good to see.
I see. I think change is determined by your attitude. You can adjust to make it work, or you can resist and make yourself miserable.
Yes,
Oh, Tawana. Yes.
that was deep.
And Sarah said, 2020 was a year full of change, not only with my job, but with home life as well. Yes, we did a lot of changes in 2020. Nathan and I were talking about that earlier in regards to, trying to adjust working from home, you know, trying to find a work location that's, free of distractions and, one that's suitable for you and things of that nature.
So I have to ask, well, I want everyone to think about a time whenever they had to go through a change. Just, the feelings before whenever you were scared. I'm sure you felt scared and fear and anxiety. You probably felt like you weren't going to get out of that change. But if you're looking back at it, you actually survived it.
Mhm.
Change is like that. Change is inevitable. We may have our feelings of reservations or whatever, but we can actually survive change if we adapt. So that's something to think about whenever you're presented with the idea of change, that you are actually capable to do it.
Myra said, sometimes change catches up with you. I never thought that some of the changes that were forced by the pandemic has been some of my dream changes. I've always wanted to work from home. I've always wondered how the world would slow down
Mhm.
with all of the fast moving changes that technology and social media brings out.
Love that.
This is too, Myra. I agree with you. I am a social butterfly, and it's at times I'm an introvert extrovert, and so at times I need that interaction. But we found ways to interact just as much with the new technology that we're learning. So I never thought that I would enjoy working from home, but I agree.
And I have to go back to, if I could find it, Rachel's comment, change is like water, and we're all flowers being watered into blossom into something greater. That's true. Change can actually improve us.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Ruth said there's such a wonderful feeling that you get when you look back and realize all the changes you've survived and how they've made you a better, stronger person. Well said,
Yes.
Ruth. Well
Love
said.
that. So, Kim, do you have any closing remarks or anything you'd like to say? And also, audience, if you have any closing remarks you'd like to say, type it in the chat.
Well, what I do want to tell everyone is that, when you leave, this webinar, will you be like, all right, change, I'm ready for you? No. But I want you to think about those steps that we've discussed. And one, when you're in that pre-contemplation phase, allow yourself to feel those emotions, but make sure that you use the tools that we've discussed to move you through all of the different stages. Because we talked about how change is not always bad. Change is good. Think about, like they said, how stronger and a better person that you'll be once you hit stage 4, which is that action phase. So, it's important for you to know that, you're going to go through all of this and you're going to be better on the other side. Nathan, do you have any closing remarks?
Well, I could definitely relate to that. And what Ronald said, don't make change too complicated, just begin. That's something that I had to realize. I could say from the past year, I've actually definitely improved my relationship with change. Although I'm not a change pro, you just have to lean into it, find out what works for you, and just follow what works. Make a plan and go through with that change.
I tell you what, we've been getting some great comments in
Yes.
here. Yeah, you just have to lean into it. And that's what it's all about. So I want to thank all of you for your comments. You guys have given us some great tools and tips,
Mhm.
and everything that we're sharing with you, including some of the comments that you are providing. We are going to provide you with a handout. So everything that we'll discuss, don't worry. We're not going to leave you hanging. We're there for you, and we're going to provide you with that handout. What you're going to do is that handout will be on the talent development page under the Success Series webinar. You're going to click on it, and it's going to bring up all those handouts from all of the webinars that we've done. And if you also want to rewatch today's episode or any episodes in the past, don't forget we're on YouTube. All you have to do is type Louisiana State Civil Service in the search field, and you'll be able to bring up all of our past webinars. And if you don't have YouTube, don't worry, we got you covered. We're now in Leo. So you can search by typing webinar in the find field, and you'll find our webinars just in case you don't want to go to YouTube. Now, we just went ahead and finished our first series of our 3 C's of change. Today, we talked about the concepts of change, and next month, you don't want to miss it. We're going to talk about communicating change, how to recognize how to communicate change in a more positive and effective manner. So you don't want to miss it. Go ahead and schedule. You guys have been a wonderful group. Thank you for sharing. We really appreciate it. And remember to keep
On
on learning.
learning.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.